Welcome back to the Keep Going podcast with Vin Kennedy. I'm your host, Vin Kennedy. Today we have a special guest. This is Dan. Dan, you want to do a brief intro, buddy? you can giggle.
Yeah, we can crack up. We're just having fun.
Yeah.
What's going on?
You want to do a brief intro on yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Dan Marchese. I am a fitness professional over at Motives Movement in Millstone, New Jersey. I run ultra marathons. I guess you could say I'm. No, I was gonna say you could say I'm a hybrid athlete. No.
I mean, you definitely are, though.
Yeah, I just don't like using that term.
I feel you.
Because it's just like, what is hybrid? It's just like if you can ride a bike and you can do 10 push-ups, so you consider it hybrid. You know, it's like, but whatever. You know, I like to lift weights. I believe in strength training is a big aspect to long distance running in my experience. I'm also just an advocate to just, you know, do things you love in life and to do hard things and never get too comfortable and always put yourself in an uncomfortable position.
Absolutely. I think a good place to really start is kind of how you even got into running and what you were doing prior to running, if you want to get into, you know, everything obviously with your shoulder and all that.
Yeah. So I was like a power lifter. I was into powerlifting when I was working out when I was younger. I was about like 18 when I started like really getting into lifting heavier weights. So I got into like squat, bench, deadlift. And that kind of took a turn. I was on YouTube and I found like guys Olympic weightlifting. So I really got into Olympic weightlifting. And that's where I got to a point where I like had a whole setup at my house and got so serious that I ended up getting a coach and was competing competitively on like a national stage, which within 4 years of doing the sport.
What kind of like numbers were you putting up at those times?
So I was at like it's all by kilos, but I was at like a 165 pound or 169 pound weight class. My clean and jerk was at like 315, and my snatch was like 240, 255. Like the most I ever hit was 255.
That's insane.
Yeah. But that was just like a lot of work. I was doing it for like 6 years and
Right.
drilling and like I had a whole setup at my house and like I was super serious about it and with the coach and everything. Very passionate about it too. Like just like a lot of things I did revolved around weightlifting. Like whatever, all my Instagram feed was just like weightlifters, YouTube, and every day just like watching old videos of old lifters and some of my favorite lifters. So it just like was my thing at the time. And literally like the biggest part of my day, you know, is like wake up, go to work, maybe wake up, stretch. You know, my meals were based around my workouts and I knew I had like a long, maybe like 90-minute, 2-hour workout a day. So the reason I'm building up that it was such like a big thing for me is because I was competing in Ohio. So I've been doing it for 7 years at this point. And I'm competing in Ohio at the Arnold Classic on this like big stage. And I was like cranked on caffeine. I had a big training block going into it. I was with my new coach who I thought was like the best coach I ever had. And he really taught me a lot, not only in Olympic weightlifting, but just now being a coach myself, thinking about how he coached me really helps me out a lot in a lot of ways. So this day, you know, we were pumped. We were out there in Ohio, and I was smoking my lifts before I went out on the platform, my warm-ups, and then I go out there and I miss my first lift because I get out on the stage and all these people are in there. We're in like the big convention center, and like people are walking around, and I was just so hyped up that I like threw it over my head. And you start with the snatch. So snatch was the first thing, and this is a weight I've hit. I like to say like I've hit it 100 times because I know I've hit it so many times.
And what was it in pounds? Not a kilo.
This was 230. It was or 228 or 230. I go for my second attempt, and you can go up in weight in your second attempt, but I just kept that same weight and thought I would just like go up by like 10 kilos after that, after I ripped it. Had a lot of confidence that I would hit it. So when I went up, again, I pulled way too hard, and I knew it was going like behind me. So when I did that, I wouldn't let go, and I ended up dislocating my shoulder.
Yeah. The video is pretty sick.
Yeah. And it's one of those videos that, like, I can always go back and watch because there's a bunch of reasons why, but, like, one of the reasons is, like, that moment in my life was just, like, a moment. It's like in a movie where, like, this is the climax of this part of the movie, and everything's going to change from here on out. So I look back at that moment a lot as, like, a good thing. Like, it sucked then, but now I look back and it's like, dude, that's, like, one of the best moments in my life right there.
I was supposed to go, yeah. I feel like it usually is the tough shit, but it sucks. But you're right. Like, you kind of need that to form and shape you.
100%.
Sure. Yeah.
So after I dislocated it, you know, I was like, oh, like, I thought, like, I could just pop it. I never dislocated a shoulder or anything or it broke a bone or anything. So I thought I could just pop it back in and go back out there. Jesus. Especially because, like, you know, you train for it.
Right,
like,
yeah. You're all hyped up still.
Yeah, you're like, you want to do the numbers you have to hit, you know. Like, I thought I was going to be competitive in this weight class, in this big national, like, event. For me, it was a big deal. And the medics, like, laughed at me. They're like, you're not popping this back in. We can't pop it back in. We got to go to the hospital.
Right.
So I got that, and then I ended up getting surgery on my shoulder.
And then from there, like, what was, like, your thought process? What was your next step? Because I know even me personally, I know friends going through it right now too, where, like, you kind of lose that thing that defines you, which it's hard to not put your identity in certain things, but, you know, like, athletics, especially for someone like me and you, like, it's what we do. So when you get that taken away from you, like, where was your head at?
It's funny that, like, you would think you can just go in this, like, black hole.
Yeah.
Even, like, I'm surprised that I didn't, but, like, most people would go in a black hole.
Yeah.
You just get your, like, most valuable thing in your life taken from you, like, or the thing you did every day taken from you.
Right.
And but for me, like, I just had this optimistic view right away, and it was like, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna be stronger. Like this, because the funny thing is, in the Olympics, I think the year before, I watched a guy in my weight class. He went out there and he broke his elbow or snapped his elbow. But then, like, a year later, that guy was back on Instagram snatching or something. So
give you hope, yeah.
And this was foreshadowing. Like, this is before it happened to me. So then, like, me playing that back, like, these guys come back from this stuff. Like, this isn't it. Mm-hmm. Even though it feels like there's no way I can get a bar over my head again. So I just had an optimistic viewpoint that I was going to come back into weightlifting and that it was just a temporary leave.
Right.
Then it became more prevalent that I probably wasn't going to do it as soon as I thought, when the doctor started telling me the healing process, and I wanted to take it seriously. So he said anywhere from 9 to 12 months, and I was like, I'm probably going to wait, like, at least a year before I start lifting overhead and doing that stuff again. But yeah, I was good about it. I wasn't too down in the dumps. I was also, like, picking up books because I had a lot of time on my hands.
Did you ever read prior to, or not really?
Not really, like, not crazy, because I could never find books that, like, I was super interested in it.
Right.
Like, I would read a book and then, like, I'd catch myself falling asleep all the time. Then I'd just, like, give up. Like, why am I reading this? So then I started reading books like Can't Hurt Me.
Right.
Or
it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It really
like, it was like a movie. It was amazing. I cried, laughed, like, went through all the emotions reading that book. And that's when I finally understood, like, when people read books and they're like, it's so different.
It really
took me, like,
true.
20-something years.
Unless you're into it. Dude, I never finished a book. Like, I'm not even kidding. In school, I don't even know how you do, like, you come back from summer and it's like, you got to finish the book report. Bro, I don't even know how to write these papers. Like, dude, I didn't read the book.
Always. I was the worst with that.
Yeah.
But then there were some books where, like, it hit me and I would read that whole thing.
Right.
And then now, later in life, like, I know what books to go for. Right. And it's not all, like, self-improvement books, but now I have more of a niche for reading.
Right.
After, like, going through that, because I read a couple books, but a lot of them were, like, self-improvement and things like that. But in the time where I was, like, it was really, like, helpful. So I kind of judge the books that I read now or listen to now off of the season of my life that I'm in, or off of something I'm really interested about learning.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, because
where you at right now?
I'm still in Never Finished with
the new David Goggins.
Yeah, I have a couple books. There's another book, actually, I just downloaded on Audible, so I'm not gonna read it, but I'm gonna listen to it. I forget what it is though, but I remember being like, I want to listen to this.
Yeah.
But.
So back to the no, you're good. So back to the so basically you're dealing with rehabbing the injury. you're finding books, it seems like you're kind of developing yourself. It's like, obviously you had your identity in that. Of course, it's easy to lose it to an extent, but I'm the same way. I'm optimistic as fuck. And like, I know what annoys people. I feel like because you're so optimistic and I'm the same way, like you surround yourself with that, you put that out there, things just tend to kind of go your way. And I feel like you were in a similar boat in that situation.
Absolutely. I know that like being
like positive. Almost,
being positive about you is only going to put you in a positive direction.
It's true.
So, and like the mental is a powerful thing. So if you do think that way, it will line up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, for some reason, because there's been other things that happened in my life, and I would be in the dumps for like weeks.
Right.
You know, so it's so weird that happened, and I wasn't like that. But I think it was just like how my life was lining up.
Yeah.
And then reading things about like David Goggins, finding like Nick Bare and Cameron Haynes at the time.
Yeah.
And they were all running. And the thing with running was like I never was into it at all.
Right.
The only times I would run was for like 2 weeks before soccer tryouts started and maybe like during wrestling season and like 2 weeks before wrestling season.
Right. It was like a chore. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a chore. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hated it.
It's so funny.
I would do anything not to run.
Yeah.
My doctor was like, so if you want to like get back into running, or if you want to get back into working out, you could start running because you really can't do upper body yet.
Right.
So like he threw it out there that I should start running because I was like itching to do something.
I wonder if, and just not to cut you off, I really wonder if this guy knows what you've done now.
I could hit him up because he told me, he was like, when you snatch 255 again, I want you to email me.
How about I run 100 miles, buddy?
I mean, it would be pretty cool.
Foreshadowing, obviously, what's coming. But yeah, so if you kind of want to.
Like I saw Cameron Haynes and Goggins and Nick Bare, and they made running look cool.
Well, I don't even think it's that they make it look cool. And I know obviously a lot of people have like that stigma around like the hybrid thing, but they had muscle and they run. Like you look at runners and it's like these skinny dudes that crush miles. But, you know, like most people's ideal physique isn't that.
Yeah, there's the whole thing about like, oh, if you start running, you're going to look skinny like that. You're going to lose all your muscle. You're going to lose all your strength.
Yeah.
It's not true, man.
Yeah, absolutely
It's not true.
Yeah, it's true.
Trial and error now, it's like it's not true. But I was the same way. I would think like, oh, if I'd run a certain amount of miles, which you will lose strength, you will lose muscle, but you won't lose it all. And there's a way to have maintenance, and there's a way to even gain strength.
It matters like what you're prioritizing too. So
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like it's not black and white. It's not like if you run you're gonna be skinny, if you lift you're gonna be big. It's like no. That's like when women come up to me, you know, and like the
you know
what I'm saying, bro? You know what I'm saying? That's like when it's women come up to me and they're like, oh, I don't want to lift heavy because I'm gonna get big, and I'm looking at them like, yo, I've been trying to look like Arnold for 10 years.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I just want to get caught. Yeah. Exactly.
Even though I haven't been trying to look like Arnold for 10 years. If that was true, I would get closer.
Done it, yeah.
I would have took Tran. I would have went all the way in. But,
so then he kind of hints at the idea of running. You see these guys, and your mind goes exactly like my mind goes, and I know like my mom and just people that know me are gonna laugh when you just start going into what really took place next.
Yeah. So it started with like a mile.
Right.
A mile a day, maybe like, and it was like a drug, dude. Like I would run a mile and then like call one of my friends up who was like a wrestler. I knew he was into running. I was like, yo, did you run today?
Yeah.
He's like, you running?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, dude, let's go to the park. So then I would run another mile. And then I remember I went to like Manasquan Reservoir. It's a 5-mile loop. And I like ran it. And which is a great method if you're just getting into running. Like walk, run, and go for distance because you'll get further, you'll build confidence, you'll build an aerobic. It's actually, you're going to be going at a lower heart rate anyway, so it's better anyway to start like that. But I ran and did the whole 5 miles, and I was like, dude.
Savage.
Let's go, like 5 miles. And then I would bump that up. I think I ran 8 miles, and then I was like, wow, like I would like go on Map My Run and look at like how far I ran. Like I can't believe I ran in this neighborhood and ran here and ran back.
Yeah.
And then like I wasn't like too interested in going any further beyond 10 miles. And even my like girlfriend at the time, her mom was a runner, and she was like, "You're gonna be running marathons," and she's like, "This is what all the runners go through." I was like, "Get that! I'm not a marathon runner.
Right.
Get that out of here. This is just like a little redemption. Once I get back in shape, I'm going back to weightlifting."
Right.
And maybe like a couple months later, I signed up for the Miami Marathon in February 2020. So,
So what was the time span
things
from like
changed.
that first mile to the Miami Marathon?
I think I started running in like May of 2019 or June of 2019.
Okay.
And I ran a marathon in February of 2020.
Okay.
So, I don't know, 8 months later, right?
Right.
But then I trained like all through the winter. I think I signed up in like the end of October.
And how'd that first
June,
one go?
October, so like 6 months. What was that?
The first marathon, how'd that go?
Dude, that was a great marathon. I ran a 3:33.
Which for first marathon's insane.
And when I signed up for it, I was like, I would love to break 4.
Yeah.
And
You did that.
Yeah, I smoked it. But as training went on and like my training, I just like drew up a plan on my own, like figuring like I would do a little method. The other cool thing was like Nick Baer was into. It's like I was never like following Nick Baer. It just happened that he would be doing something that I would be choosing to do, which I love too. And like, not like, because I feel like a lot of people will also like look up, which I love because I hope people like look at me and they're like, oh, now I want to start doing that. But like people will look at someone and like just follow what they're doing.
It's true. Yeah.
Even though it's like, are you really like that into that?
Right.
So I like that. Like it was just at the same time. And like I could relate to his content, which was like, it was helpful because some of the things he would talk about, I would be like more interested in going into a deeper dive of like, oh, what does like low heart rate actually do? Like he talks about it all the time. Let me see what that's all about. So it's like little things like that.
Yeah.
That was like coincidental and it's cool.
But I know exactly what you mean because it's like, it's relatable and it's not like you're following them, but you're on a similar path. Like I had the weirdest, and I brought this up on another episode, but I love the rapper who used to be formerly Mike Stud, now he's Mike. And like we were both in like that party scene, like getting fucked up was like what we wanted to do. And then he's on like a big like self-growth journey. And I'm like, it's so weird how like he did a 180 and then I did a 180. We're at two different ages, but yeah, exactly. Like we're going through it at the same time. It's
and
just
it keeps his music relevant to
it's
you, right?
so like relatable because of it.
It's super cool too. That like he makes the switch, and it's like Mike Posner did that, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them even like so much better, like way more respectable of an artist. 'Cause
absolutely.
They still create art
Right.
through their music, and now it's like even more powerful. So
Absolutely.
That's really and like to be on the same journey.
100%. So
It's
yeah,
cool.
I mean, I wish I was more along with Nick Baer in the past, but yeah. So if you want to pick up
cool.
on that,
And so like I was able to run a faster marathon because of that.
Right.
Because I had like I didn't want to go and get a coach just yet because I still wasn't a runner.
Right.
You know, even though it's like
no, I know what you mean.
Because now it's like no, I'm just gonna get a marathon to say I ran it.
Yeah.
After I ran that marathon though, that's when like I was like, yo, I love this.
Did you bonk? Like, how did you know nutrition? Like, that's what
I'm talking about. Like, I don't go into anything. Like, right now, I'm on this big cold plunge kick. I don't go into anything without, like, going into an extensive dive of, like, what I'm about to get into.
So that's where we're a little different because I'll just dive in and figure it out as I go. But I dive in. I think the big thing, though, that a lot of people miss is that just dive in. So, like, I'm not saying not to do the research, but a lot of people do the research and never take that first step. And it's just like,
right.
You know what I mean?
It's like you're better off diving in than doing the research and then trying the small step. It's
I mean, I've hurt myself plenty of times as far as like bonking and like getting messed up. But yeah, if you kind of want to go into, so you kind of knew because of the research what you were doing.
Yeah, like I just knew the gels and how many calories I should be getting in per hour based on my body weight, based on my pace, and just like based off of training, like how it felt. And I built up to 18 miles before, or I think I did a 20-mile run.
Okay.
So that last 10K was rough, and it was getting hot. It was in Miami, and I was training from like December, and
obviously
like
the later
months.
on in the day it gets, which obviously the longer you're running, sun's coming up, and
it got tough. Like I almost like was like, oh, no more.
Yeah, almost bonked out. Yeah.
Yeah, but then like at the end you get like adrenaline the last mile.
It's true.
It was good. It was a successful marathon, but then COVID, like right after that hits, I'm on YouTube. I find out people run 100 miles, and like my mind's like blown.
Yeah, I feel like everybody, when that like number gets tossed around, like 50 is obviously insane, but when you start hearing like people run 100 miles, you're like, what the actual fuck?
I'm like, no way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like run?
Yeah.
Like they really do that, and you're like, wait, Colorado and like the mountain, like what?
Yeah.
These people are crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was humanly possible. Like no way. And then like it's such a different world now,
Absolutely.
but So I saw that, was so into it, watched like 10 documentaries on like ultra marathons. I was wondering, I watched like every documentary, like 10 documentaries on ultra marathons, thought it was so cool. So my birthday was coming up in April. I was still running a little bit, and like I was just big on just like challenging myself at this point. Now I was on this journey of like, I ran a marathon, I did Olympic weightlifting, like I just feel like I'm expanding in my fitness, like I feel great, like what's next? And so I was like, on my birthday, I'm gonna run 50 miles around the neighborhood, around town. And that's what I set out to do. That is something I dove into. Like, to contradict myself before, I didn't really look too much into it, knowing that like, all right, I should probably have a little bit of a training plan going into a 50-mile run.
Did you train like a similar style to what you did?
No training. I just was like, dude, I ran a marathon. I should be good to go.
Oh, it's like a couple weeks later.
Yeah, this is like end of February.
That's
marathon.
more my style.
Yeah, that is exactly. Like, to contradict myself, the way I entered the ultra marathon world was to, but then I learned real quick based off of like, dude, I was broken. So that was in April. I didn't run again till June.
Right.
Like the end of June.
But you did it.
But I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it under 12 hours, which was my goal.
Same.
It was rough, but it was all on road,
which
is like probably maybe never again. I shouldn't say that because that might happen one day.
Never know, yeah.
But actually, I ran 50 miles on the road if you count the backyard.
Yeah, definitely counts. So you hit that 50, and I just want to stop here because that's actually another thing that I wanted to bring up, where you do a birthday challenge every year.
Yeah.
So if you kind of want to go into what some of those have been and what you're, do you want to go into what you're planning next, or?
I mean, we can dabble into that.
Yeah. So if you kind of want to kind of walk into that, and then what you're planning next, if you want to talk about it.
Yeah. So the birthday one, in fact, the reason why I wanted to do the 50 miles on my birthday is because the year prior is where I got that surgery. Right. And that was on my birthday. I chose to get the surgery on my birthday because I had like 2 dates to pick. One was my birthday. I was like, let's do it that day. Yeah. Because it's like, everybody, in my head, it was like everybody wants to celebrate on their birthday. Like, I want to like choose that to be like, it's just another day. Right. But it's also like a hard thing, and I didn't want to go under the needle and like go under anesthesia and all that. So it was rough.
Well, that's the theme now, right? Just like on your birthday, you do a hard thing.
So I want to do a hard thing on my birthday. So that's where the 50 mile came around. I was like, I want to do this on my birthday. It's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. And then the year after that, so that was 2020, 2021, I did, so we have Mount Tammany in New Jersey. And there's a race every year called the Tammany 10 where you have to run around Mount Tammany, which is a 3.1 mile loop. It's a 1,200 foot climb up and then a 1,200 run down. And I did that. So they didn't have the race. So I did it on my own on my birthday, and I did that 10 times under 10 hours, and they did it in like 9 hours. That was the hardest thing I've ever done at that point in time. Then the year after, this year, I ran a 50-mile race in Georgia, so in the mountains. So this was now my first competitive 50-mile race.
Like in an actual race format?
In a race format, in the mountains of 10,000 feet of gain. And the reason why I chose that was because of the Beast of the East 100. So it was like getting me ready for the Beast of the East 100 because it was like half of it, basically. It was a 50-mile race with 10,000 feet of gain, and the Beast was a 100-miler with 20,000. So I was looking for something in that. And so I did that. I ended up taking second place in that because like I trained for it, and it was definitely one of the hardest things. I still think that one was like one of the hardest ultras I did. Yeah, because the way I felt after was just like trash for weeks.
Sure. Yeah.
Now this year, me and Big Vin got big plans.
Yes, we do.
We figure out we're both Tauruses.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
No, I'm April 2nd, so I'm
oh,
Aries.
yeah, you're Aries.
So a little bit before you, but yeah, right there.
We're April babies. That's what we figured out.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, if you want to, so tell the plans here.
So me and Vin are going to set out to do the rim to rim to rim in the Grand Canyon. This is about like a 48-mile trek. You go out 24 and back 24, give or take. Mm-hmm. And we want to finish it. And I mean, we'll still sit down and talk more time-wise.
I mean, you know better than me.
But that is like for us to just go out there and like actually push it. Right. And like not really know. I mean, we'll dive into what we're going to have in front of us, but not really know until the day of, because that's what ultra marathons are.
It's true. And just experience-wise, like that's an insane place to run an ultra.
Yeah.
Like
And this is the big 3-0.
Yeah.
Big 3-0. So I had to do it big.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're gonna journey into that and plan that all out.
Like you said, we a lot more logistics with that, but yeah, it's definitely something it's gonna happen, but it's just a matter of getting a plan going.
And it's a big thing for like runners, ultramarathon runners, to run the rim to rim to rim. It's like it's a big goal for a lot of people to do.
Sick.
So if I can check that off, that's like
we will.
And then when we do it, dude,
yeah, it's gonna be sick.
Everybody's like, people that I've told, close people, like, you can't do that alone. I'm like, nah, I got another guy.
100%.
Like,
yeah. Well, now you
still,
always got another guy to
like
do this shit with.
another person to just die with. But no.
But, okay, so then you do the 50, but prior to that, you did the Beast of the East.
Right.
So if you want to kind of dive into that.
The 50 in April.
Right.
The one that just passed.
Right.
So Beast of the East was in December of 21.
Okay.
This was. So what did I do before that? I think I ran that 50 miler on my birthday.
Right.
The at home 50 miler. The
and then
COVID
Beast of the
one.
East was your next like legit race ultra.
So then after that 50 miler run, I actually trained through the summer for in October. I did a thing where I like maxed out my squat on a Friday. So it was like a 3-day thing. I maxed out my squat on a Friday. I run a sub 40 10K on Saturday, and I run a sub 4-hour marathon on Sunday. And like my whole thing behind that was like a big like hybrid thing where like you can max out, you can do absolute strength, absolute speed and absolute endurance, like all together in one weekend. And like it was kind of successful. Like I wanted to squat 400, I only got 375. I wanted to run sub 40, I ran above 40.
Yeah.
And just above 40, and then I ran a 3:30 marathon. And then after that, I was like, okay, I want to go into like ultra marathons and trail running because that's what I really love to do. So it wasn't until like September the next year where I raced again, and that was a 50K. And then I had the Beast in December.
Okay.
So my whole thing was like in June of 2021, I signed up for the 100-mile race. So it was just like, okay, this year I'm going to train. I'm going to run 100 miles this year.
Right.
Because like Kevin, who you just had, Kevin Hogler, me and him were running a lot together, and he ran hundreds, and I was just like, dude, I got to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I got to try this out. So that's why I signed up for the Beast.
It's kind of what happened with the first go around with the Beast of the East. And
I went to the Beast of the East as prepared as possible. I actually had a really good training block and was really ready. The RD didn't believe I was ready. Like, he kind of gave me a little scare in the beginning and just said
good
things
old Richard.
Like, good old Richard. Like, he just gave me a little, hey, man, like, I don't know if you're going to finish this.
Right, like, not a lot of people do it the first time through.
Yeah, like, you're from New Jersey. Like, who are you to come down these North Carolina mountains and run them?
It's true. So what?
Beast them. Only 6 people finished.
And I mean, you dealt with like harsh conditions though.
Yeah, so it rained for a few hours on and off. That was one thing I wasn't prepared for, was my feet. So I got really, really bad blisters, like the size of quarters under all of my toes, all over. It was awful. I like kind of forget the pain. This year I got a couple blisters and it reminded me like, oh yeah, this is kind of what it felt like, but 10 times worse. But I had to DNF at mile 81.
So basically, and again, for people that don't know, like you are a psycho, so you probably would have kept going a little bit, but time-wise, you were going to get cut off anyway, right?
Correct. Yeah. I was going, man. Like, I was like crying and walking. Like, I was like, I can't not finish this. Like, for multiple reasons. Like, one, I've trained so hard. I told all these people I'm going there. And like, that's one big thing. Like, I announce everything I do. Right. Because that just holds me accountable. And it's more of like, I'm doing it. You know, absolutely. I'm saying I'm doing it. So I had like all these people I know, and then I had Richard, like, you're not gonna finish. So it was like all in my head, like, I gotta finish this. Yeah. And like, there's cutoff times for aid stations, and if you're not at an aid station by a certain time, then they're not gonna let you keep going because you won't make it in time before the overall cutoff. Right. So it like came to a point where it was like I was like minutes away from the cutoff, and I made it to the aid station, and everyone on my team's looking at me like, dude, you're done. Yeah. Call it. You're killing yourself.
So you were at 81?
I was at 81. I was at Linwood.
So then What kind of happens? What's next? What's your next like thought and idea?
So that was like depressing, man. Like I was actually depressed. I felt serious depression for a couple weeks after that. And I was trashed. Like
Right.
I just
Your
ran
body
80
was,
miles.
yeah.
That was the furthest I ever ran. But then it was like, all right, dude, I'm going back there. And I think it was like the next day where I woke up, I was like, I'm going. I think it was right at the end. I was like, I'm coming back next year.
Yeah.
And I was like dead serious. Because sometimes I finish these races, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm
good
never
there.
doing.
Yeah, I did it. I'm
Never
good.
doing this again.
Yeah.
So right away I was like, I'm going back there. It was like similar to when the shoulder got hurt, right? Like,
Right.
I was just like optimistic about like going back. Like I was upset that it happened and it hit me worse, but I was optimistic knowing like, okay, when I get better, I'm gonna start training hard and I'm going after it.
Yeah.
So that's when like I lined up my year. I did the goggins challenge. I do that like every year. So I did that like earlier in the year, and then I got ready for that 50 miler
Right.
in April. I ran a 6-hour race around a mountain in the summer, and then built up from there. Oh, and then I ran a backyard race at the end of August. So that was like
That was 100. Ended up being 100.
So I was actually gonna try to run the Appalachian section of New Jersey, which is like a 72-mile trek from High Point to the Delaware Water Gap on the Appalachian Trail. And then I just wasn't training there enough. So I was like, this isn't going to happen. But I need a race before the Beast. I need some other big push before the Beast. So I signed up for that Backyard Ultra thinking like, let's see how many miles I can do.
Yeah. So if you want to kind of explain the format of that and then how many miles you ended up with.
So Backyard Ultra is a 4.16 mile loop. The way that it's done, the real way that it's done is you do the daytime in the trails and then the nighttime on the roads, because of just like so you're not
Safety kinda
tripping.
shit, yeah.
It's still so dark on the roads. So you're running 4.16 miles every hour. And then at the top of the next hour, you run another loop until there's one man standing or one runner standing. So you start off, say you finish in 50 minutes, you have 10 minutes to rest, eat, whatever you got to do, change shoes, whatever you got to do before you start the top of the next hour and do another loop. At the 50-mile mark, it's going to get dark. We go out, you go on the road, you do that till it gets light, you go back on the trail. And you keep doing that back and forth
Until
someone,
the last person kind of wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did it. It was me and 3 other guys basically that ran the rest of the night, maybe from mile 70 to mile 100. And by mile 100, like I hit 100 miles. And that was like my big thing, to go to the Beast of the East and get 100 miles. I didn't get it then. I got it here. I was pretty satisfied. I was pretty beat up, and I knew I had the Beast coming. I was like, all right, I don't want to push it. So after the 100, I just called it.
So, I mean, that still put you in what, like third?
Yeah, like if there's technical placing, I was in third place.
It's crazy.
But
And then the
really, the
50
guy that won
miler,
it.
you came in
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the one in the summer, it was like as many loops as you could do around this 1 mile loop around this mountain. It was a 300-foot climb per mile, 300 foot up, like 1/10 of a mile across, and then 300 foot down. As many loops as you can in 6 hours, and I won that race. That was a big confidence booster because that race, I paced myself so well. The first 5 hours, just held back, watched this kid just freaking burning laps. Never let him get a lap too far ahead of me, but I knew he was ahead of me.
Yeah.
And then he just gassed out, and then I just zoomed by him.
Yeah.
And that's what it is with these races. You just got to pace yourself. So that was a huge confidence booster. So I had those, all these races this year went really, really well. And then after the 100-miler, I took some rest, and then I started training for the Beast. Had a really good training block, and even gained weight on my way, which is something I've never done training for these. And I was just really focused on strength training, really focused on getting my calories in and making up for all the calories I'm losing from all the miles I'm putting in.
Right.
Which was hard, but I was able to maintain a really good amount of weight. So training was really good, and then went into the Beast this year.
Yeah.
To dial it back, for these 100-mile races, you need a crew. Even the 50-mile race, you need a crew of people that are going to assist you and help you out and there's just so much going on, and you'll give some input on that. But
you really have to focus on, like, everybody's got a job, right? So like your job is to get the miles done and make sure you get the miles done. So you can't really, of course you're thinking of other things, but you can't really focus so much on other things, especially towards the end. Like your mind's just gone.
God.
Yeah, you're screaming Drake in the woods. Like it's just what happens.
It's gone. Yeah, so it's important. Like you can do it without one, but it's gonna be just way harder.
Right.
So if you can get yourself a crew, like it's a blessing.
Right.
And I had a crew for 2021, and like that wasn't gonna be the same crew for 2022, and I didn't think there was gonna be anyone else but me and my sister for 2022.
Well, I think that also kind of goes into your preparation for the race as a whole too, right? Where you started taking recovery really serious. So you started going to the Banya where we met, and kind of
It's a good point.
Yeah.
I started changing it up.
Yeah.
Started making some changes where I needed to, and it made things work out because that's where I met you and Greg, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then then I had Drummond. I knew Drummond was going to come. Drummond was in August.
And your sister, obviously.
And then my sister. So it was going to be me, Drummond, and Liz until I met you guys. And
which
then
was like, listen, you meet a man in a sauna, and he tells you in a couple months I'm going to go run 100 miles in the woods. You say I'm going to come with you, and that's generally good things come from that.
That's what you got to do, bro. And I think it was me first who was like, you were like telling me you're going to run
the sub 3 in
the
Zona
sub 3
in February, yeah.
And I think you went to Colorado.
And I came back, yeah.
You came back and you were like, I'm going to run the sub 3, and I was like, dude, I'll come with you.
You said, yeah, I'll come run a half. And then I
didn't
watched
even say the half yet. I was like, oh, come.
Oh, yeah.
I'll just come out the zone. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to run too.
And then I watched your video on the first round of Beast of the East, and I was like, yeah, I'll come crew you if you need it.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how it started. And obviously I'm joking around about meeting men in saunas, but like it is the truth about opportunity and just and taking things, because you never know where it's going to go. And I know I'll never forget the experience, but if you kind of want to dive into it and play out exactly how it went down.
The beast.
Yeah. If you want, I mean, the beginning is even just fun. Like, obviously you rent the car.
Yeah, like the whole thing. So just getting the crew. So it was me, Vin, my sister, and our other friend Greg, and our friend Drummond. Yeah. And so first it was just like logistics and everything. Like we got the Airbnb. Me and my sister already booked that like long ago. So it was just like we already had that, and it was like, how are we getting everyone down there? My whole plan was to always drive because I can bring all the gear, like all the bins that have all my stuff.
More control,
and then we have a car when you guys are going aid station to aid station.
Right.
So we rent a bigger car because I have a smaller car, so we rent like an SUV. And then it's me, you, and Drummond.
D-Baby. Yeah.
Yeah, D-Baby. We're driving down. We're going down. We're cruising, and we're pumped. And we're not even how many hours.
Well, we see the other car get a flat.
Yeah.
And we're like, damn, that sucks. And then like we hear something a couple miles later, probably.
Yeah, like literally. And then I was like, yo, you hear that? And the tire was like, woo, woo, woo,
yeah.
Woo. You were like, yo, that don't sound good. And I'm like, damn it, the flat tire, the air pressure thing's on. And so we pulled over. That thing was smoked. Dude, we were in I want to say we were in Virginia, but I think
it was right before. I'm not
Maryland
sure.
or something.
Yeah, you might be right. I think it might have been. Yeah.
It was definitely a little south.
Yeah, definitely south.
You can tell.
It's pancake houses.
Yeah, there was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, we got that changed quick.
Quick change, quick recovery.
And then we're right back on.
It was like a good testimony of like what the weekend's gonna show. It's like, all right, ultra marathons, shit happens.
Yeah,
so
how are we gonna handle
it?
Yeah, it's true.
So we did that, banged it out. Boom, we got down there. Liz flew in, Greg flew in. Everybody made it to the house the night before the race. This was the day before the race. We drove down, which was my choice. But I think we did a great job.
Yeah.
Just like we went food shopping, we got everything we needed, and woke up, went to the race course, and started. And the thing which I had an advantage for myself was that I knew exactly where I was going on the course. Right. There was no surprises, which for me is big.
Sure.
It's because I know it's like if you know what you're gonna go against, it's way easier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you seemed so. Obviously, I wasn't there the year prior, but everybody, like your sister was saying, like you just seemed so much calmer. And I was like,
yeah, I was just confident, man.
Yeah,
and that just goes to show, like when you put in a lot of training and you are honest with yourself and you really just dial in and do everything you can and don't miss, you're going to walk up to whatever competition you're in with absolute confidence, you know? So it's like,
Sure.
win or lose, like I put in everything I could to win.
Yeah.
So whatever happens, happens.
Absolutely. I personally, on my end, I feel like the first marathon, maybe, you just cooked. And it was like with ease. So like as a pacer, obviously we couldn't hop in till mile 50, but like you were just fine. Like
Even
every
that,
time we
even
saw
the first
you.
50, I would say literally I've been telling people the first 80 miles.
Oh yeah, you were money.
I think I was like in a great place.
But I'm saying like first marathons, like obviously we'd meet you at the aid stations. We'd give you what you need, do whatever you needed. Drummond was a big foot guy, helped you out a ton. And then we would kind of go back and have like an hour, but you were like on the dot. Like, first of all, I don't know how your sister knew what time specifically, but we were there, and then you'd come in like 5 minutes. I'm like, how do you guys do this?
That's an
like, are you guys communicating? But like, you weren't. But anyway, you were money with that. And the first legit, like probably marathon or 30 miles, even 50, yeah. I think every single time we got there, you showed up with like in minutes. So it was like you were cruising.
Yeah.
And then even one aid station, you beat us to.
Yeah.
But
which was
oh, that was with Greg later on.
Yeah, that was later on. That was at night. That's when I was starting to be like, all right, I need my stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. So what was the first, like personally being out there, obviously by yourself, but it's daylight. Like what was the first marathon or 30 miles?
Dude,
like
when I was out there, it was like, I was so pumped. Like I was a little kid on a playground, just like smiling. Like when I was by myself, like I was like, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back. Like I was just so pumped.
Yeah, I love that.
And yeah, dude, I knew like my nutrition was going really well and I was getting food down and I was just like pacing myself to a point where I knew like I was just going up the climbs, running the flats, running the downs, and I had my method. I knew I was on track for like a really good race if I kept that first loop up. Like,
did you have any idea of like placing or not? Not yet.
No clue.
Yeah.
I knew that there was one point where I figured, all right, like I only see these few people in front of me and I don't see too many people.
Right.
And I see a lot of people running as I go a different direction.
Right.
So I had an idea that like, all right, I'm up there. I'm in like top 10.
So just for obviously people like watching and listening, how was the layout as far as like, so you would go all the way to one end and then you go all the way back through, but what was the mileage between like aid stations and from one end to the other?
So the first aid station was like 3.5 miles out.
Right.
But with that, you're climbing like 1,000 feet and running down like 1,000 feet. So it's a lot. It's longer than when you would think of 3.5 miles on a flat road.
Right.
And then you go to that aid station and you turn around and you climb back up, you run back down, and you come back to the main aid station. And that's a 7 mile out and back. And then you go out the other way, and that one's before you get to the next aid station, it's like 6 miles, and then another 2 miles, and then it's back.
Right.
Something like that.
To go to South Carolina?
Yeah. Well, to go from the 161 to South Carolina.
I think it ended up being like total like 1.25, so like right around there.
Yeah.
Feels
so long.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would feel
It
so
did.
long.
Yeah, it really did.
But so like basically that ended up to be like 12 out and back or something like that, right? So it would be like out and back one way and then out and back the other way. And like you're climbing up and down mountains the whole time. It's not like a straight flat run out and back. You get it done. There's a lot of elevation gain throughout the whole thing. Now there wasn't altitude gain, there was just elevation gain. We're on the East Coast. You can go to like Maine or New Hampshire to get a little bit of altitude, but you're not going to get much of that over here.
Right.
But the climbing is rough on the legs, but it's one of my favorite things to do.
Absolutely. So then you kind of like, was there anything that stuck out between like 0 to 50? Or you were kind of like, it seemed like you were just on cruise control, like you were good.
Yeah, like everything was feeling good. You know, you feel the fatigue and you feel your legs a little and like your joints start to, my kneecaps, that's what it was. My knees were I don't know, they were just achy. That's the best way I could describe it. My actual kneecaps were achy. Never felt that my entire life or ever while I was running, and I felt it that day. And I had like the IT band issue and I had all that leading up to the race, and that didn't act up at all. But kneecap, So I would just like biofreeze that. But other than that, like I was feeling good.
Yeah. And like you said, nutrition was on point, hydration was on point, and then you kind of, then you hit mile 50 and I was able to tap in.
Yeah,
That's when it got fun.
That is when it got a lot, really fun.
But even like, so like personally, I was dealing with the IT band thing. Like even that week I missed runs of my own for my marathon prep, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen. But then again, it's like one of those things where like my job wasn't like, of course it is to run the miles with you, but like it's you. So like I just didn't feel anything, which like I feel like always kind of happens, especially in like race atmospheres. But yeah,
it's crazy that
I
happens.
mean, personally, the first, what do we do? 16 together, the first loop through, rolled my ankle like 3 times. And I was I was making like the super bad joke. I was like, the fastest fucking kid alive. Like you were just sprinting down hills on rocks. And I was like, I don't understand how anybody does this. And it's pitch black.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, I was like, rolled my ankles pretty bad. Nothing like crazy, but like definitely felt it. And then like after I stopped after that 16, we went back to the house and I was like noticeably limping around. And I was like, shit. I was like, I hope Greg like feels good out there.
Yeah, and I think even Greg was like, "Yo, I don't know." Vin said he rolled his ankle,
Yeah.
and like you guys weren't telling me anything.
Well, I was trying not to get
If
'cause it
you and
wasn't
Greg
your-
were like in a bad spot, you got, which was awesome, but you guys like didn't tell me,
Well,
so
what are
I
you
had no
supposed to?
idea.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
so like
it's
it
not.
was like a curveball when Greg was like, "Oh yeah, Vin rolled his ankle." I was like, "Really?" I
Yeah.
was like, he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then like it turned out on the other side, then Greg was all messed up, you know,
Yeah.
and he didn't say anything to me. He wasn't saying like, "Dude, I'm cold," you know.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't want to complain.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because we were really just like focused on you, and especially like, when you're out there, obviously it's a lot of climbing. It's a lot like I've never done anything like that. I've done like David Goggins, so I've done things for duration, but I've never done anything with involving climbing and the running, and especially like trail running like that. So, and then I've never done it with like all the things I do is alone. So I was like, how do I preoccupy this kid? So Drake was just the answer. Like
Played
it was
a lot of Drake.
We were just screaming, singing in the woods, and it was like, it worked. It really did. And we just kind of kept the music on. We'd have conversation, and I feel like it kind of, I mean, at one point, like your mind was just gone.
Autopilot.
Yeah, like you said, like my like 70 to 80ish, like kind of lost
Like
you.
blacked out.
Yeah,
dude.
but
you
like,
could see it in like.
but you were like
pictures.
a blacked out, like as if you were like a little kid, like that's just like a little fucked up, like you know what I mean, like a little, like maybe a little too much Tylenol, like you were just kind of like happy, but like you just weren't there. It was so funny.
Dude, I was gone.
But
I was just on like autopilot.
yeah, so like on your end, so again, like obviously you didn't know that me and Greg were both a little banged up, but how did it like, how were you feeling running with us compared to running alone, and what was kind of like?
Oh, I feel like you guys were a big piece of like how I crossed that finish line. You know,
Yeah.
it could have got real bad in the dark by myself at some points. Like my mind was good, but I know at some points my mind would have been lost. I mean, dude, I was falling asleep.
Yeah.
Like I was like, gotta get me Red Bull. Yeah. Like
Yeah,
literally
I
my
remember-
eyes
well,
were
yeah.
closed, walking like, gotta get a Red Bull.
Well, once you started getting real tired, and I texted the group chat right away. I was like, he needs caffeine.
If I'm by myself, maybe I go lay on the side, you know,
Yeah.
and like 2 hours go by, and you guys are like, what that, you know?
Yeah.
Who knows? So
Sure.
you guys out there and like keep me occupied, and because it's hard.
Yeah.
Like you're not sleeping as much the nights before. You don't know how tired you're gonna get later
Right.
on, and like the effort, you're pushing your body beyond its limits. So like you get
Sure.
really exhausted at some point. So
Yeah.
to have someone there, I think that's why they have like pacers. You know, it's a big boost.
We saw why they also have pacers, because like there was a couple things that like stuck out to me along that race, and one was like we saw that one dude. He
dude.
wasn't there, bro.
He was
like,
a 50 miler, which is even scarier.
He
'cause
was
the
like-
point we saw him.
It was probably like midnight, 11 o'clock, and
Yeah,
this
maybe
kid
later.
was staring into nothing. It was pitch black, and just like as if it was like the middle of the day, and he's like looking at like birds.
Dude.
Like he was
We were like,
gone.
"You good?" He
And
had
we
the,
were like,
the
"Are
goo
you
in his
okay?"
hand too.
What?
Did you see the gel
Yeah,
in his
it
hand?
just
He was
holding a gel pack. And we were like, you were still running by him. You're like, you okay? And the kid like didn't. He was like, I don't know. And I was like, yo, are you okay? Like seriously? And he was like, yeah, I think I'm good. But like he just wasn't there. And then we saw him coming back, and I was like, this kid's like just gonna get lost in the woods. But luckily, he found his way.
Did he?
I hope. I mean,
Word on the street.
I mean, if not, it's our
They
problem.
never found that
We-
kid.
we let- Word on the street
I
is
saw
some
him.
kid never made it back.
I saw him in the pictures they send.
He's
I
still
found
out
him.
there. But and then another one was the kid that ended up winning the race. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Dude, talk about the fastest kid alive.
Literally, like I just saw, so obviously you all wear headlamps. I just saw a headlamp bobbing, like it looked like in a full sprint, just screaming with one headphone in, like the wired headphones, a t-shirt,
like
and shorts.
death metal screaming.
Yeah, like just screaming as if this kid like just started the race and he was on mile like 90. And I was like, he's on cocaine. Like, you can't convince me that kid didn't take anything.
Dude,
like, he was taking pre-workout the whole race.
Maybe. I don't know, dude.
It was insane.
Dude, yeah, that was just like seeing like a professional. Or,
Yeah, I don't even know what that was.
That was legit.
Yeah.
I was very impressed by him. Like,
Yeah, no, that was insane.
even the guy that he did it in 24 hours last year. He came back to do a sub 24. Like, he couldn't believe how fast that guy was.
What did he end up finishing in?
In like 23:30 or something.
insane.
Everyone crushed it. Like,
Yeah.
everyone that finished and had these goals, they all crushed it this
Yeah.
year, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that's
So-
like the other thing. You're out there with these people like for a whole day, and like you're like making a little bond with them.
Yeah.
And it was cool that like Richard, the race director, kind of promoted my YouTube video, and a lot of people before the race watched it, and they like knew me out there.
There's a bunch of people.
Dan, yeah.
Dan runs and lifts, because that's your YouTube name, obviously. And like people were just shouting that. And I was like, this
Yeah.
kid's a celebrity out here.
Dude, they
You
knew.
You run North Carolina. It's basically how it goes.
That's it, the beast.
But yeah, so I feel like, you really just cruised, and like it was so cool to see. Like, obviously I've only known you for I don't even know, 5 months, which is insane. But like you see like evolution of people throughout that race, like even to
Right.
watch you, and then especially in the end where like obviously you're going through it, your body's shot, everybody's is. It was 27 hours in total, and like the last we gritted out the last like 10.
Yeah.
And like really gritted
Long
out,
hours.
like you were hurting it. But just to see like it was just so cool, and to know that like you did it the year prior and had to DNF, and like what it meant to you, I was like, yo, this kid's a fucking savage. I was like,
Dude.
this is someone that I need in my life and need to surround myself with, because like this is someone that's just gonna keep going, like literally.
Dude,
Seriously.
goosebumps.
But it's true, man. Like, it was like, it's so cool to see that. And like, obviously, you're around people your whole life, you have friends your whole life, but there's certain people that you click with on that level. And I feel like we knew it right away. And it's
Yeah.
just like, this is someone that gets what I'm about and what I enjoy doing, and just like putting yourself through shit. It's
Yeah,
literally
dude.
like what we enjoy. And I think it's cool.
And you learn a lot
Yeah, a ton.
about each other and
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
yourself. Most
Absolutely.
importantly.
Absolutely. And I think it's a little bit of a tangent, but like, and something else I want to talk about was like, kind of like where you weren't always this person, as far as like, you were always into working out, you were always that, but like, we were both in like, I don't even want to say the party scene, because it's not like I was like, I'm a fucking Dan Bilzerian out here, but like, we were getting drunk, and like, that was kind of our thing for a while. And like, to do the 180, and then, you see people do the 180, and like, I'm sure even people see it and say it about me, like, oh, this is his new thing. Like, he's going to run a little bit. And it's like, let's run 1,000 miles in 5 months. Like, this is my thing now. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, to see someone actually stay committed. And then there's people too that like, you see, they seem to be about it, but it rains and now they're not about it. And like, I know that's not you. And like, that's what I really like, you see in those races. And it's just so cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
The thing with that too is like we all think the same way,
Right.
bro. It's not like
Yeah.
there's so many times where I'm like, I don't want to do
Oh,
this,
yeah, it
you
sucks.
know?
Yeah, even
So that's what, knowing that, and then you do it anyway, like, and then people that say they do it and then they don't do it.
Right.
It's like, that they didn't beat that, you know?
Right.
It's like, well, dude, stop saying you do it, because you can't even beat what you're
Yeah.
going against anyway. Like,
true.
The whole point is like, you're not going to always want to do it. You're not always going to be motivated. You got to build that discipline.
Yeah.
If you can surround yourself by people that are honest with themselves, they're going to be honest with you. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to have it all.
Yeah.
And that's the people you want to be around.
It's true. Yeah. So what was your thoughts in like, I guess like the last 50 there, really?
So, I mean, it was going great, dude, like the whole time. And then like 80, I like just like the climb, just like the thought of the finishing the race and like all the climbs I had ahead of me were just like, dude, how are my legs gonna work?
Yeah.
How are they gonna work to get up there? So it was just like push, and it's a lot of just like putting your head down and just like going, like, knowing that each step's gonna get you a lot closer.
Yeah.
So there's like no thoughts. It's like, I gotta do what I gotta do right now.
Well, I feel like as much as you are thinking about everything, you're also got to be kind of like mindless, because if you focus on like, you're doing 100 miles, you can't look like, oh, I just did another mile. Like you'll
No
destroy
way.
yourself.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like, even like you just said, like there's some days where you go on these, like I go on a 4-mile run. And I'm just like, geez, I'm only at 2.
Dude,
it's
100%.
Like, I didn't think about it until we got to like 85. I probably didn't even really look at my watch to be like, oh, we only have like 15. Like it never even crossed my mind because I was like, we just need to get this done.
Yeah, we got to get to points.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, we got to get to that point. We got to get to this point. We were making little like checkpoints.
Yeah.
As we went on. When we get there, we get to the one with the road. And then, you know, it's like,
it's true.
Because you know you're a little closer.
It's true.
And that's the game you got to play out there.
Absolutely. You break it down because obviously 100 miles is a daunting task. So you got to break it into those pieces, like you said, and it's aid station by aid station. And it's, listen, if you got to look forward to chicken tacos at, what was it, 181? You look forward to chicken tacos. Yeah.
Dude, the
and
best
same with
taco
pancakes.
I've ever had.
Pancakes are good.
Pancakes are good, man.
But
the food, dude.
Something else that I really like, and it's always stuck in my mind, like, so we were deep in it. I think we were like probably 70s or 80s. We stopped at an aid station. I don't think it was the same guy that had the chicken tacos, but he didn't have them that time. But you saw a dog and you like lit up. And I was like, yo, that's like a testament of who you are as a person. Wow. That like, it was just cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were depleted, you were shot, and like you weren't even talking to me. And then you see this dog and you like lit up. But it's also cool to see like what can kind of like bring something out of a person when they're in the shit
when
like
they're
that.
Down, yeah.
But I just thought that was like a cool thing. I was like, wow, this kid, like, he's going nuts over this dog. I was like,
that's crazy that you like noticed that.
Yeah.
'Cause that's just like,
yeah,
dude, it's weird. Like, you just gotta put yourself. It's like you drag yourself through these like hard things, but like you could still like enjoy life. That's like a good example of like, you know, you're going through the shit. You see something good, like you could still like enjoy it a little, and then like go back into it.
Yeah.
You know, like take yourself out of it and go back into it.
Yeah,
and
no,
finish the
absolutely.
job.
And I think, honestly, the biggest takeaway, and like, again, obviously I mentioned like, you know, this is someone I need to keep surrounding myself with, is you're going through it too, obviously. And every single person we passed, you were like, keep going, like you're crushing it. Like, and it was actually an ongoing thing. We kept saying keep going because obviously it's the same podcast. But I was like, holy shit, like that's like a testament of who, and a lot of the races are like that too, which were awesome. But like, testament of who these people are. Like you're going through something hard just like they are, and it doesn't matter if you're 20 miles ahead or you're 20 miles behind. Like everyone is encouraging, and you especially, like I don't even think a single person passes that you didn't say it to. And it's just like, wow. Like, but that shows too, and that's why you could get through these things. And I know even myself, like just on smaller runs, like you say something to someone, like it gives you like endorphins, like it lifts you up. Like, so
absolutely,
it is, again, and it goes back to what we were first saying about like just spreading the positivity, you get it back. And it's cool. That was like, I was like, wow, that's just fucking cool. Like,
dude,
that's cool, dude.
I love the ultra community.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
There's
absolutely.
just like great people out there. And
yeah.
Like you said, everybody's cheering each other on. No one cares what place you're in. But let me tell you, like when I got to the point where I was gonna, like I was like, oh, like there's a top 5 in this.
I think we knew I would say like probably 51, 52.
Yeah, like when you started with me, like we knew. I was like, yeah, because we went to Linwood and he was like, yeah, you're in 3rd place or you're in 4th place.
I think I asked, you know, I had to know.
Yeah,
because I was like, because I knew
place.
just from seeing people, I was like, there's not many people ahead of him. So we asked the guy, and what did he say? He was like, yeah, I think he said you're in 4th.
Yeah, I think I was in 4th. Like I was always in 4th.
Yeah,
I never let it go. But like when it became that, then it was like
a little different.
Yeah, a little I liked it.
But you were still,
like,
yeah.
I was like, now I got to push. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I don't want this guy to beat me. Like,
Sure.
so I had that. But it was still like I was rooting for him because I want
100%.
everyone to finish.
100%. But and then that's where I think it comes in, and like I think that's where we're very similar, where people could kind of let that come out, and it turns it's going to be competitive, but it's like, to what extent, right? Like where it's like you play that game in your head where it's like, I want to place here because this is my place right now, and I want to do this for myself. It's not like I need to beat that person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's obviously not how you are either. So I like that was cool because it was like, you know, the same people are passing you, and like you were like, oh, keep going, like you're crushing it. And like I know in your head you were probably like, fuck you, but like but like in a loving way. If you know what I mean.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna get you.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was cool. Yeah. And you started screaming like top 5. We're not 5. We were
Top 5, not 5.
I mean,
dude.
it was just a lot of
We were
music
pushing,
out there.
dude.
Yeah.
We got it done, dude. Like that when we came back from Boulder's Access, like South Carolina, Boulder's Access, on our way back, it was 7 miles back, and I was hurting bad. Like I was dragging ass, but that was like the best walk back because I knew.
Oh, this is the victory lap.
This is it. Like
Yeah.
we're gonna get there. Like,
Absolutely.
And we're almost there. I'm going to drag my legs there. And then when we got to the parking lot and like people were like cheering me, dude, tears started rolling down. Like I started picking up my legs. We ran.
Start jogging it in, yeah. So how did that feel, like crossing that finish line?
You know, you think I'd cross it and be like, woo! You know, it was just like the most humbling thing. And it was just like I did it.
Yeah.
It was just like peaceful. It was like I did it. It was a peaceful moment, right? It was like silent. The pictures,
100%.
like we just sat down and just like absorbed it.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to sit in it. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you went through 27 hours. I mean, I obviously Greg wasn't feeling well, so he knocked out. But I don't think anybody else slept. Like, and obviously you ran 100 miles, but like the crew didn't sleep. Like we were all like fucked. Like, and
everybody put their effort in, man. Like it was just a stellar performance. Like all around. Awesome. The weather's great. Everything just went really well, and that doesn't happen all the time in these races. And like I'm so grateful for it to happen at this race because I needed to get that done.
Yeah, you placed fourth, obviously.
Placed fourth, but and I placed top 5 because his thing was like you get these 2 buckles if you place
that was
top
also
5.
Another thing.
So it's like cool that like I was up there, just got the buckle. Like no one really got anything different for placing more. I think if you did the course record, you get like some money win. Win some money.
Well, that was one of the things too, right? Like the night before when we checked in, we saw that. And again, like, I don't know how these races go. It's like I think like me and Greg threw it out there, like, oh, you need, and Drummond actually. I think he was like, oh, they got a top 5 buckle. Like you get, so if you finish these 100 milers or any of these ultras, you get a buckle. And
belt buckle.
Yeah. But they had like a special one if you place top 5. So like to go from DNF to top 5, and like we threw it out there even when we were standing there with Richard. We were like, oh, well, we're going to get one of the top 5 buckles. And like it happened.
It actually happened.
Yeah.
I would have never thought I'd place.
I didn't even know how these work. I was like, maybe you could do it. I was like, maybe you could win it. I really have no idea what's gonna go on. Yeah. What was your like big takeaways from the ultra as a whole, like mindset and mental wise that you think like people could benefit from?
The biggest thing is like creating habits that will build discipline over time and being consistent with it. So a habit is something you have to be consistent with it. With that, you know, you're going to be disciplined to do the habit because you're going to build it so it's a part of your daily schedule. So you're going to do it all the time, and it's also leading you to be where you want to be. So me going through the process of training for something like a 100-mile race, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of dedication. So you have to do what I said. You have to build a schedule that's going to be habitual, and it's going to build discipline, and it's going to be strict, and it's going to teach you that if you follow that structure, you're going to get to where you want to get. And in life, if you want to get to a goal, you may have to sacrifice a small season of your life just so you can reach that goal. You don't have to reach for that goal, but it's like, dude, if you want to get there, this is like a great way to get there.
Yeah.
Look at your schedule, build habits that's going to be sustainable, and make sure it's inching you closer to that goal. And don't make the goal so like unrealistic and the time period so unrealistic that it's not going to happen, because that's only going to knock your confidence and you're going to just give up.
Yeah.
So like make it realistic, which I did. You know, I knew I had that in me to run that 100 miles. And then when you go and you run it and you go through it, one, you're prepared, right? It's like studying for a test. Like you studied, you know, you're ready for it, you're prepared, you're going through it. And then through that, it's easier to go through the discomfort because you prepped your mind for it through the discipline of the training leading up to it. So then you can just like go through it. So you really just like build this callus over your mind over the time period of training for the 100-mile race and then doing the 100-mile race.
Well, you built it. Like you built someone that runs 100-mile races.
Correct. Now you're someone that can run 100-mile races. Yeah. What's next? You know, it's like...
I had a conversation with my sister yesterday, actually, on a similar topic of like, a lot of people focus on like this balance. Like you need this balanced life. And like, I think it's very, very good to be unbalanced in certain areas of your life for periods of time, like you said, because without that, you don't make any real progression. Like,
correct.
You need to be unbalanced. Like if you have the goal of running a marathon and you're not a runner, you need to dive in. You need to take it serious. You need to be consistent. You need to miss Saturday nights out so you could hit your Sunday morning long run. Like you have to be unbalanced or you will never move. Like you don't actually make progress.
Right, dude.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with anything. Like, you
Yeah.
want to start a business, you really want to start that business,
Right.
it's going to take a lot of time.
Right.
But you want it.
Yeah.
So go get it.
Yeah.
Because you know you want that.
It's true. So obviously after that, body's beaten. Like, I think I carried you into the Airbnb.
You did.
And, but so your body's beaten. I mean, we had tons of food. Nothing
Lot
good,
of food.
but
Nothing healthy.
some food. But, and then I kind of want to go into like I think people don't really know, like you fry your central nervous system, obviously. Like, it's 27 hours of running, like
It's not good for you.
not good. No, like and that's the thing, be unbalanced to learn, because you know the mental gain you're getting from this. Obviously you're getting physical benefits as far as like you're creating fitness, but at the same time you're breaking your body down. But you're doing this to better yourself. And Goggins talks about how it like condenses like just say years of your life into like 27 hours. Like you learn a shit ton about who you are, how you can battle adversity. Like, you know, and people think things like this don't correlate, but it's like, you know, you lose a loved one and it's like, I know how to deal with hard shit. Like, of course it isn't directly related, but you just know you have a tough mind.
Right. You've built that resilience. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's what it's for. It's for when life, because, you know, I've learned over time that life can hit you hard in all different directions, and it's how you absorb it. And like, there's actually methods, because, you know, I know like our ancestors didn't always have the luxuries we have. So like they were forced to be in these uncomfortable positions all the time, so that when like bad things happen, they were like prepared. Like,
right.
Say they were like traveling on their feet to a new village, you know, and one of the members dies of a sickness. Like, they're not going to be like, oh no, like I'm sure they'll weep a little bit, but they're like, all right, we got to get rid of it. We got to bury the body. We got to go.
Right.
You know, and they just like deal with it, because it's just like part of life. So we have all these luxuries, things make us comfortable. We don't get that as much. So it's finding things to make you uncomfortable and make you realize that like, oh shit, like life is right here, right now.
Right.
Like, how am I in this moment when something like this happens?
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. And then even, I know like you've went into it with me personally, like, so even after these races, sometimes like mentally, like, you're fried a little bit, and you actually like, you would think like, oh, like after a marathon for like a week, I had like a runner's high, but like this is the opposite effect, right? Like maybe that day you feel good, but you're like mentally, you kind of go through a little bit, right?
It beats you down,
yeah,
for sure. And it's not just like wanting to go back out there because you just did it for so long. It's just like your hormones are all screwed up.
Right.
Your sleep's a little screwed up, and that's gonna affect, you know, just like your mental state. I think it's big on the hormones. I think that was a lot where it's like it just, you think differently, like, and you're just down.
Yeah.
So it takes a toll on you. So knowing that, like, because you're just going so high up, like if you're gonna bring yourself to like such a height, then you gotta be ready for that crash down.
Sure.
You know, and then it's like, don't go right. You're not gonna be able to go right back up.
Right. Well, I think that goes right back to the balance, right? So like, be unbalanced, and now you're taking your recovery serious. You know, big on the ice baths right now, which love the videos.
Cold plunge.
Yeah, a cold plunge. Yeah. So it's, you know, and then that's the balance. And now you're big on recovery, and you're kind of getting ready for what's next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And know that like I have to give my body time.
Yeah. So I personally have been dealing with this little like New Year kind of. I don't even know what to call it. Like I'm thinking of it as like a New Year like hangover in a way. And I know a couple of buddies that are kind of dealing with the same thing, where it's like, and obviously everybody lives to the life that they want, the success that they want, and you know, you're going after goals that you want. But I kind of am in this weird spot where it's like the New Year hit, and everybody is like, you know, it's the New Year, new me, like reset. And I'm kind of like, I felt like weird for like a week, because I was like, I'm doing the same things, but I'm like, am I wrong? Are people wrong? Because it's like people are doing 180s, and like I've done 180s obviously, but like I don't know, I've kind of personally was in this weird spot for like a week. Feel great again now, and I think part of it was like I couldn't run fully, like I was missing runs because my legs were messed up. I was just like, I don't know, I was like, had this weird like questioning, like just then, you know, like should I be making more changes, where it's like dude,
New Year, same me on the same mission of growing. It's like, get off that boat. You know, I've been focusing on yourself. Yeah. And continuing to focus on yourself. I think no matter what time of the year is, like if you come to a standpoint in life where you're like, you're questioning, or you think like you're making some choices that aren't directing you, it's great to do a self-audit and just like take out things or add things that you need to improve your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's it. So it's like everybody in the new year is like self-auditing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But it's like you got to self-audit again in 30 days because
Right.
you probably gave up all those goals you just created.
It's true. Yeah. And that was like the funny thing. And I was even like saying that in my own head, because I do something on my phone every Sunday. I do like a Sunday reflection. Like I write down 3 things, and then next Sunday I look at it and I'm like, okay, where did I fall with these 3 things? And I write like a little sentence about it. And listen, sometimes, it's one of those check boxes. So sometimes you check it off because you accomplished either what you want to accomplish or what you're working towards. Some weeks you don't hit it. Like it's just reality. And like you go back to it, and it's just kind of what it is. But I was just curious if you were feeling that, because obviously coming off the race, the new year starting, I know you have some new goals obviously in place, but it's also that weird stage that I find myself in where like you finish that event and like I'm the guy, and I know you are too, where it's just like I sign up for the next thing because like, not that I'm like guaranteed to fall off, but like that's kind of what I like doing and keeps me there, like keeps me where I need to be.
Yeah. So I'm big, like I need something big on my calendar.
Yeah.
I used to think I need something big like more often on my calendar. It's like now it's like 1 or 2 a year, but it's finding daily things that are gonna define my character.
Yeah.
Whether that's like choosing to go for a run, doing the cold plunge, going in the sauna, whatever it is that's like gonna test you a little bit, make you a little uncomfortable on the daily. If you can do that, I think that's gonna give you enough of that dose of like, and also humble you that like it's okay to not do something like extreme.
Yeah, it's true.
So like right now, like I'm at the point after that race and everything, like I'm just like chill, dude. I'm like not looking crazy, like what's next, and a lot of ultramarathoners do that. They're like looking for 5 100-mile races already. Yeah. They're all signed up, and a 200-miler in there too. It's like crazy. Yeah. Because you're just beating yourself up. It's an old man sport. You can ride it out. Yeah. I want to sit back a little, focus on other things in my life right now, and still keep this obviously involved. And like I said, like I'll do the cold plunge all the time, like every day now, because that's my little discomfort. Because working out and running is not really like uncomfortable anymore. Yeah. Let's be honest,
Well, even I had a guest on, James Boria. He bear called the ultra
savage.
Insane. Like kid's a savage. But yeah, he actually talks about this, and I loved that he said it, and it hit home. It was like, when you're a runner and you run every day, of course there's days you don't want to run, but that's not hard anymore. Like that's not pushing the needle. That's not making you uncomfortable, and it's so true. Yeah. And again, that doesn't mean you have to change everything every day, but like for people like us that are like pushing ourselves physically, like you should at some point when you become stagnant and maybe you're not progressing in other areas of your life, like look at fitness as like, okay, well, what could I switch up? Like I know for me, like eventually I want to dive into like high rocks or do an Ironman. Like there's other things that I could switch to if I do burn myself out running.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, there's always options. And it's like the identity, like we were talking about earlier in the beginning. If you lost running today, it's like, that's your identity. Is that it? So it's having other things in your life so that when something goes, you weren't identified as that. Yeah. So like, I don't want to be just identified as Dan, the crazy guy that signs up for these 100 marathoners and does this crazy stuff. Like I want to be remembered as Dan, the good friend, the guy that inspired me, the guy, other directions of life.
Yeah. No, it's true. We ask every guest, but what keeps you going?
So there's a lot of things in life that keeps me going, but one of the biggest things is my why, and my why is that I don't want to die without having experienced becoming my full potential, and also, inspiring as many people as I can to just like improve their lifestyle as well, based off seeing me improve my lifestyle and me showing them how they can improve their lifestyle. So it's knowing that like me being alive and pushing myself, pushing my limits will also inspire others to push their limits. And like, to me, that's it. I can change a lot of lives, and that keeps me going, man.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it firsthand. People out there screaming, Dan lifts and runs.
Yeah, so. Dude, I love it. Like I truly love inspiring other people, and I really can't wait till I start reaching out to more people.
Yeah, and you definitely will. But if you want, this is a good time to like just plug yourself. So on YouTube, it's
Dan Lifts and Runs, and on Instagram it's at Marchese Fitness. On TikTok it's at Marchese Fitness, Marchese Fitness.
cool. Appreciate your time, man.
Not
Thank
giving
you.
out my
Always
snap.
Not giving out
Not
snap.
giving out the snap just yet.
But no, I appreciate your time, man. And honestly, it's been absolute pleasure getting to know you. I know it's been 5 months, but I feel like we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome, and I'm excited for
Yeah. What's next?
our next adventure, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again.